Good evening. At this time, I'd like to call the June 27th board meeting of the Beaufort County Board of Education to order at this time. Before we get into the agenda, as you can see, we have a white bow at one of our board places tonight. June 17th, we lost one of our board members, Miss Barbara Boyd-Williams. Some of us were able to attend the service today. It was a very nice service, and Miss Barbara will be deeply missed. And at this time, I will ask if any other board member would like to make a comment. And if not, I understand.
Well, I'll say she was just a really nice lady. I've been on the board 8.5 years when I first got here. It was kind of funny. She never said anything to me, and it took me several months. I thought, well, does she like me? Does she not like me? And she was just a very private person. And one day she called me at home, and it all just clicked after that. And she was just an extremely nice lady.
And I want to share one of the last conversations I had with Miss Barbara. I had no idea at the time it was going to be the last one. My first night on the board, I was as green could be, and I didn't understand any of the acronyms that they were all talking about up here, and I was very lost. And so I had a lot of questions. And at the end of the meeting, as I was walking behind her, she tapped me on the hand. She said, "Honey, don't ever be afraid to ask a question, because usually the rest of us have that same question and we're too embarrassed to ask." So she said, I said, "Well, I'll keep using the 'I'm new, I don't know anything' excuse for as long as you need me to." And she said, "If you ever have a question on how to vote," she sat right straight across from me. She said, "You just look over here and I'm going to shake my head yes or no." And so as time went on, I learned to vote the way I thought, but I did follow Miss Barbara's lead for a long time. Well, a few weeks ago when she was at a last meeting, I went by her and meeting was over, and she tapped me and she said, "Do you remember what I told you on your first night?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am. You said to look at you and I'd know how to vote." And she said, "I've missed so many meetings that I'm looking at you now to see how to vote." So I thought that was really sweet, but she was a wonderful, wonderful lady.
I'd just like to say that Barbara was more than a board member to me. She was a friend. As a matter of fact, I was the one that begged her to become a member of this board, and she did, and I've enjoyed her. I missed her. I visited her during her sickness, and I still learned a lot from her, but we know that she did the best she could as a board member here, and we appreciate that, and we want to say to her family, thank you for lending her to us.
Absolutely. Yes.
Before we move on, I'd like to ask that everyone in the room, let's pause for a moment of silence. Thank you. Item number 2, approval of the agenda that's in front of you. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, ma'am.
With the
Second.
adjustment that we just had,
Yeah.
right?
So
With the
moved,
adjustment, okay.
Chairman.
Got a motion? Second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Item number 3, recognition. I'm going to ask Mr. Rick Anderson, if he will, to come forward, and let's recognize the state champion track team.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to come tonight and to recognize these young ladies. These young ladies are the 4x200 relay state champions for 1A females track in the state of North Carolina this year, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce. I'm going to introduce all 4, even though we only have 2 that are here. Not with us tonight is Natasia Wishop and Nakia Johnson. The 2 that are with us are Imani Redmond, if you come up, Imani, and then also Jacqueline Wood. And I would also like to recognize their coach, Coach Quinterly. Coach, if you come up as well. You know you're going to have to do that. No, I do.
If we could get them just to shake the hand of the board, we'd like to get a picture with them after they do that.
Absolutely.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
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 You related to Artie?
She probably tell everybody that. I hear there's more in store for you, too. Yes, congratulations.
Congratulations.
You do a great job down there with these kids. Great job. That's already, that's Suzanne. That's Suzanne in the back. Suzanne in the back. Whatever kind of kid.
They only make beautiful children.
She's about 90.
Same word.
That's all right.
But I love him to death.
That's all right.
And you don't want to get in a foot race with him.
Oh, I'm sure of that. Thanks for coming, though, and sharing.
Yeah, thank y'all.
Okay.
What grade are they, Mr. Anderson?
11th grade and 12th grade.
How about the other two?
Well, yeah. They're in college and 12th grade now.
What about the other two?
The other two help me.
Graduated. Yeah, Nakia Johnson, she was a senior with me. Bishop, she's gonna be right here with Jasmine.
Two of them will be back.
So we can look for another one next year. That's what, okay, good deal.
No pressure.
Good luck.
Yeah,
You set the bar high.
that's right. Can't go much further.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
Item number 4, no action, Washington High School Soccer Complex. Mr. Johnny Roberts, City of Washington, if you will come forward, appreciate it.
While he's coming up, Mac, Kim Edwards and I asked Mr. Rodman to speak with the board, just kind of update on where we're at with the soccer complex at Washington. There have just been some hurdles in light of the track team here tonight that we have to overcome. And ask Mr. Rodman to speak on those, if he would.
Mayor, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Can I just, wanted to give you a little update on, and I'll explain in just a second. Wanted to give you some maps so you know what we're looking at as we make decisions.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. I want to make sure to clear up any concerns or any questions that this board may have. For those of you that do not know me, my name is John Rodman. I work for the City of Washington. I'm the Director of Planning and Development. And I wanted to tell you where we are in the process for the new sports complex, soccer complex out at the high school. Like we said before, it's been a little concern about what's going on. I just wrote down some notes for you about where we are in the process. The first thing that happened was the city had a preliminary site plan presented to the city. We look at that, the planning department looks at that, and if there's any recommendations or concerns or anything that we have, we make that to the presenter that gave that to us. There were several recommendations that I had that came from that site plan, and you'll see those three there. First of all is what we call a recombination of property. That means that you're combining properties that are in close proximity. If you go to the first page of your maps, you'll see this is the property in question that we're talking about that has been purchased for the proposed sports complex. The next page this is the actual site plan that was presented to the city. With that, I said I made some recommendations that may help the process along. The first recommendation was, like I said, a recombination. That's combining properties so that instead of having several properties, you have one. And that helps in several ways. If you look at the site plan, I've got it marked in yellow. You can see when they did the site plan for the complex, some of those fields are encroaching over the property lines. And you don't want that to occur. You know, it just makes everything nice and clean. So one of my recommendations was that if you combine the newly purchased property with the high school, Washington High School site, you won't have that issue. So that was my first recommendation, is that we do a recombination of the property. The second recommendation I had is that the school system submit a annexation petition not solve several problems. If you look at your next one, the colored map that has sort of a purple and a green, everything that's in green is in Beaufort County. It's still in our planning jurisdiction, but it's located in Beaufort County. Everything in the purple is in the city of Washington. And you can see that the current high school site is in the city limits, and the purchase property is not. So what that does is that solves several issues. If you have property that's being served by water and sewer and it's not in the city limits, then the rates are much higher than they are if you're in the city limits. And being able to try to distinguish between what's being served by not in the city and outside the city becomes complicated. So my next recommendation, if we do a petition of annexation, that would clear up all that, any questions that we had about that. With the school system not paying taxes, it really didn't make any difference anyway, other than with the water and sewer. The third recommendation that I made was that, if you look at your next one, is that the school system do a rezoning. And what we have with the city is we have what we call a comprehensive plan for the whole city and what we think the city may look like in the future. Our comprehensive plan called for those two particular pieces of property, the high school site and the newly purchased site, to be the same zoning classification. So my recommendation was, since it was already in the comprehensive plan, that's what we needed to do. It didn't affect the sports complex at all because it was the same type of use in each zoning district. So it wouldn't affect that at all. So those three recommendations were made without any relation to the soccer complex. They were done separately from the soccer complex. It had absolutely nothing to do with the complex. It was just something that I recommended after all my years of planning that I thought might make the process a little easier for the school system and for the city. Last night, they went before the planning board and asked for rezoning like I had requested. The planning board didn't feel like that was a good idea, so they denied the request for a rezoning. Like I said, that doesn't affect the soccer complex at all. It just means that the property will continue to be a residential zoning district. So it doesn't affect that at all. So what we want to do is, if you go through, let's see. I included what we call in our zoning district, we have three classifications. We have what we call permitted uses in each zoning district. That means you can do it, it's your right to do it, and no question about it. You can go do it as long as you meet all the standards, you're fine. We have what we call developmental standard. Those uses are permitted, but you might have to meet some additional standards in order to do that. You can see that under developmental standards, athletic fields are included in that. So on this particular piece of property that's been purchased, a sports complex and a soccer complex is a permitted use. So that's not disputed. That means that they will be able to do it. One of the standards that you have to meet is that the site plan has to go in front of the city council for a public hearing. And what that does, that allows the adjoining property owners to voice any concerns they may have. And if there are things that can be fixed, then we certainly want to try to do that to sort of make everybody consistent and everybody okay with it. So as far as the sports complex and the soccer complex is concerned, those recommendations that we had previously does not affect that at all. On that particular piece of property, the soccer complex is a permitted use. They just have to go in front of the city council and allow for a public hearing in order to do that. So I don't know if I've cleared that up or if it's clear as mud or what, but I just wanted to let the board know, sort of keep you in the loop about where we are with it. Our next process will be when a final site plan is submitted to our department, and we'll make arrangements for that to go to city council and have a public hearing. And I'll be glad to try to answer any questions from anybody if you have any on the proposed soccer complex.
Any questions?
Excuse me, I'd like for you to come back in the fall and just update us. That'd be great to
Come back, say that again?
come back in the fall once school was back in and update us on where the project's going.
Okay, sure. Absolutely.
However many times you feel like you need to update us.
I certainly would like to keep you in the loop when the site plan goes to city council. I certainly think this board needs to know when it's going there, so we can make sure that your plans for the future and the council's plans for the future sort of coincide with each other. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, and I'm just, and EC does too, so it's not just me. So when I'm looking at this third page, and you said that the actual property that you're looking at is not in the city, even though everything around it is in the county.
That's correct.
So why does it have to go before the city council? Because the neighboring properties are in the city?
Yeah, the reason it has to go, even though it's not in the city limits.
Why do we have to have your approval if?
Right.
It's
What
not
we're
the
allowed
city?
to do by state statute is we're allowed to go about 1.5 miles outside of our jurisdiction to do planning and zoning. And even though this is not in the city limits, it is in our planning jurisdiction. So that's why it still has to go in front of the city council, even though it's not in the city limits and it's in our planning jurisdiction.
It's very similar to the John Small, P.S. Jones satellite annexation. That's what you're talking about.
That's correct. yes.
Right, okay.
Okay.
And by doing that, we will have police protection and so forth also. Is that correct?
That's good. That's exactly correct. If something would happen on that particular piece of property and it's not city, I'm sure the city would respond,
Right.
but then there'd be that, who's supposed to respond first? It's supposed to be sheriff.
Cuts out a lot of confusion.
Yeah, that's right. And you try to end all that confusion, but you're exactly right.
We've been down this road before.
But the city gonna come still.
Why did the planning board give any reason for why they denied the rezoning request?
Next question.
One of the reasons is when you look at a rezoning, you just don't look at one particular use. You just don't look at a sports complex. You have to look at all the listings that are in that particular zoning district and say, well, for some reason they don't want to do a sport complex, maybe they want to do a hospital. So, and some people might not think that a hospital is appropriate for that. So they have to look at all of them. They didn't think all the uses were appropriate for that particular piece of property.
And where do you say we stand on the annexation portion?
That'll go,
When might that happen, if it happens?
with annexation, it'll go, it usually takes 3 meetings of city council for that to occur.
Have we had one meeting yet?
No, have not had one meeting yet. So it'll be at least 3 months for that to occur. But you can still, if the plans are moving forward with the complex, you can move forward as long as you're moving forward.
But would that make a difference on how they run the water?
No,
Whether or not it's gonna-
no, not as long as you're in that process of annexation. It won't make any difference how they run it. No.
Okay, because if it's not city, then we have to do
Had to get a will.
a will, that's what I'm
Or
saying.
county.
That won't.
I don't want to assume since they denied us on the rezoning, nothing's a slam dunk anymore.
Shouldn't be.
If the properties were combined, would it then be easier to rezone? I mean, why wouldn't you rezone it to match the rest of the property?
Well, that was my thinking when I recommended it.
Okay.
That it would match with everyone, and that still may happen, it still may occur.
Is the group, the group that's pursuing all of this, are they looking at combining the properties?
It was my suggestion, you're talking about the Booster Club that
Yeah.
went in front of the, yes, they were
Okay.
pursuing that, yes.
Why didn't they do that first?
Well, they did do it first. That, it's all part of the process. And-
Okay.
And the site plan is the first, and after I received the site plan, it was my recommendation that they continue doing these items, and that's what they did.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're following the proper.
They're following what you recommended.
Yes.
Are there any county hoops, and I know you don't represent the county, but are there some county hoops we need to be jumping through?
No,
So we don't have to meet with them over anything?
no, strictly city.
I would encourage you all to have the Booster Club here communicating with you all too, so that there's not action going on that you're not aware of.
Do we have a date? Isn't there an upcoming hearing on July 9th? Am I mistaken about that?
That's correct. The next city council meeting will be July 9th. Yes, sir.
And that would, when we would make a formal request
For the annexation.
and also the site plan approval.
No, I hadn't gotten the site plan
Okay.
yet. So whenever we get that, I'll schedule that for city council. But we have not received that yet.
Mr. Rodman, looking at all your steps here on this first sheet, I want to ask you something.
Yes, sir.
Start to finish, in your crystal ball, when will all these hoops be completed? When do you think we'll have it all done so we can go
Well, like I
forward?
said, say you wanted to start, or the group wanted to start construction next month. As soon as they give me the site plan and it goes in front of council, you can start construction. You don't have to have the annexation completed, you don't have to have the rezoning
Okay.
completed to do that.
I was wondering that same thing.
Right.
It could really delay things if we had to wait for all of that.
Yeah, and you don't have to.
Okay.
The only
Okay.
thing we're waiting on is a site plan
Okay.
They
submission.
have the money to start.
Well, that's true. All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you, appreciate it. Okay. All right, moving down to item number 5, discussion action, cyber policy approval. Mr. Willie Matt Carroll.
We brought before you all at the last meeting a presentation about cyber policy, cyber insurance for the school system, and the quote was about $15,000. So we went back to the School Board Association, and they do offer an add-on policy, and Mr. Malik with Technologies had extensive conversations with the School Board Association on the coverage, and it's his recommendation that we, rather than go with the presenter the other night, that we go with option 2 with School Board Association, which is $8,431.
Are we getting the same coverage
We're getting that and a little bit more.
and less money?
Yes.
Okay. Well, do we need to wait another month and you can find someone
No,
else?
this quote expires on the 1st.
No lower?
You don't hurt.
Eventually be free, man.
Yeah, just take the policy. Okay.
If the board would approve.
I move approval. Let's do it. Okay, got a motion and a second? Second. I'm gonna say any discussion, but none. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next item is the Verizon lease proposal. Mr. Malik.
Good evening, folks.
Good evening.
A subcontractor from Verizon contacted me several months ago indicating that Verizon was interested in either maybe doing a lease on the Conterra pole that we have at Southside High School, or replacing a lamp post out there and putting a cellular array on that lamp post. So they wanted to go to the site just to look and see what the lay of the land was. So I met them out there. They looked at the lay of the land, and then they sent me an email with a possible proposal. And what I'm here for tonight is to ask the board if they would consider allowing us and the board attorney to maybe go into some initial negotiations with Verizon based upon the criteria that's in your board packet. And the recommendation from Verizon would be to put in a lamp post that would replace one of the ones in the parking lots on the campus. The only additional thing to it, as you see, is that array at the top. And then they would also supply all the power and everything at the base to it themselves. One of the caveats with this, though, is that the lease agreement is in 5-year chunks, and Verizon would probably like to have 15 of the 20 years of those years to get their return on investment. So the reason why Verizon is doing this is because they have a cell tower on 33, and I guess when everybody's in session at Southside High School, it overburns that cell phone tower. So what they're trying to do is trying to take some of the load off that main tower and allow the people at Southside to have probably better coverage in a small range. It's not a large tower. So all we're doing really is asking for permission for the board attorney to start some contract negotiations. And of course, at that point, once we see what Verizon is truly going to offer and what their terms are, then we bring it back for approval.
Any questions?
I think the only thing would be, what if there was any damage to the pole after it was erected, whose responsibility that would be?
It would be in the contract.
Okay.
Figure all that out.
Right, and that's part of the negotiations of the contract.
Looking at the rent for a light pole, I'd say we got 13 schools. Be glad. A lot of how many light poles we got, Stan?
I like your thinking, Butch. I like your thinking. Any more discussion?
Yeah, the liability part is, I can't imagine if the poles are as thick as that one, that anything would come down, but if it did on cars or anything, that liability becomes theirs.
Right, that's another thing, I'm sure that would have to be part of that contract, but that would make sure for the board attorneys to decide that language, but those are all good points.
So all we're approving now is just to
Pursue.
let Kim pursue,
Right.
Right.
move approval.
Yes, sir.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, thank you, sir.
I appreciate it.
All right, Mr. Hudson, LP contract.
Good afternoon. You have the current contract that is up for you. They are asking above our current contract that we had in the past. It's actually expired, but they're asking for a .005 increase that is included in this .07 and the shipping charges, and they're asking for a .0075 increase, which is included in the 16 cents. So there is my recommendation that we continue a contract with Tidewater. They do a great service. We hadn't had a moment we run out like our previous times we had. They monitor it very well, and we have not had an issue. So it would be my recommendation, but it's y'all's decision.
What was it, 2-year contract? How many years was it before?
It was a 2-year.
And I was just gonna say, being involved when it originally came about, I can't remember one single call we've had.
We had not had
It
one.
went from like worry to absolutely zero.
During the winter, we had issues before, and this time during our cold spell, they were on us. They kept us serviced well.
I don't want to lose them, that's for sure.
And they're a local
They're
company.
local. I like that.
That's it.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. No more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Yeah, that'll be fine. Okay, before we move on, we've got to contact one of our board members. He wants to be on speakerphone. He wants to hear the discussion on the capital update.
Jerry Draper.
Hey Terry, this is Don. We've got you on speakerphone.
Hey, how are you guys?
Okay, all right. We're going to go into item 5.4, capital update and budget approval. Mr. Hudson?
Have 2 items before you for approval or to make you aware. We did send out the 2 last of the roof RFPs. We got them back, and Miss Lisa and I opened them. The Washington High School band boosters, the low bid was RNS Roofing. They kind of messed up on their bid total there. They were supposed to combine it, but if you add the 966 to the 12,800, that brings them at 13,766, which our budget is 9,000, so we're over budget on that project. And the other roof was Chocowinity Primary's Media Center and a little connecting roof on the backside of it. And that project came in at $96,417, and we had a $93,600 budget. So we're over on both of these projects.
Can you quickly tell me what is the difference if you combine the 2, subtract what we have allowed for, how much are we short?
Give me just a second.
And if you can multitask, I have not read these word for word.
Yes, ma'am.
Do they meet all the requirements?
Of the RFP, yes, ma'am.
And do any of them exceed them?
No, they asked us exactly, they did exactly what we asked for.
Okay.
Yes.
So our bids are the same? I mean,
Yes.
Not the amount,
Yeah.
but the work.
Yeah, the money was definitely not, but we're trying to figure that one out.
Because some of it's 116,000.
Yeah.
And are these on the
So
web?
what was the difference between what came in and what we had budgeted?
That's what he's figuring out.
Okay.
I can't multitask, so I do one thing.
I was trying to give you the benefit of the doubt. I can't even.
This, the Washington High School is 4,766. Over, yes.
4.
And
That one's about 3,000 something.
I'm not good at math.
About less than about 8,000
47.
total. About 8.
$2,817
The total of everything.
would be.
So what?
75.
Around, yeah, about $7,500.
About 7,500.
Yeah.
That we'd have to take
What about
from.
it? How much percentage wise?
What was the total of those two projects together?
90 something.
93 and, what was it?
7583, 7,500.
No, both projects
No,
together.
one of
What was the
them's
bid?
90-some
What was it, what was the budget that we had, or the total price?
110, 183 is the total price they charged us.
For both.
110,
Two different
183.
contractors, but yes, that would be total.
That was what the bid prices were? 110,
6.5%.
183,
We had budgeted 102, 600.
and we had budgeted 102,
75,
600.
But, you know, I mean, doing this process over a long period of time, we have probably more come in under than the few that come in over. And I don't want to say it's an estimate, but before you ever put the bid out there, these amounts that we come up with, I mean, you're never going to be right on the money with these.
You never can, you know, I take a basic price and.
That's right. That's
figure
what you're
the
doing.
square yards of
That's
the roof,
right.
and that's what we go with.
That's right.
And you just have to hope that it's a
Yeah,
little.
rubber costs go up, and the foam goes up, everything goes up and down with market value. It's all around petroleum, so
Petroleum, that's it.
prices go up, it goes up.
That's right.
I think the concern is if it goes much beyond 75, when we get to over $10,000 more, I mean, that's enough. We gotta back up and think about it. We got a tight budget we have to work with people.
I agree.
And
These roofs
are
have to be
these
done.
RFPs, they're on the website, right? Because it just seems like we see the same ones, and I just,
Yes, ma'am, we post them, we invite actually about 9 or 10 roof bidders, but we get in the same ones that's interested. And
Who is RNS? Where are they from?
out of Kinston too.
there's nobody local that wants to.
There's no local commercial contractors that do flat roofing.
I think you told me.
There
that.
are some metal roofing contractors, and I even called a couple of them that wanted other bid and said, "Are you bidding?" And said, "I'm just too busy. Don't have time."
Well, if they're too busy, then we can accept that. If they're being denied an opportunity, not that you're doing that, but if they're not getting an opportunity to bid, then we need to change
Because
that.
one of them actually helped me work with the RFP of the metal roof, because I hadn't done a metal roof, and I thought he was going to bid, and I called him up, and he said, "No, I'm just too busy, got too much to do, too much on my plate."
Is there a problem?
But we got to start these roof systems
Yeah.
sometime. So I have no problem with that because, I mean, that's about the closest you're going to get on some of these jobs with the number we have under. I move approval on them.
And I second it. My only discussion is if they come to you and it's gonna be a lot more than what we're
No, it's gonna
planning
be-
on,
This
you'll
is
come
the-
back.
Yeah,
That's
this
going to
contract.
be, that's contract
So they've
price.
gotta stick to that.
Yeah, this
Yes,
is
ma'am.
I'm
They
moving.
got
There are
60
pitfalls
days.
when they start
They got
doing
60
that.
days to honor it. You know,
Okay.
We have 60 days to
To honor
decide.
the price.
Right, I'm moving approval on these amounts here. That's what I'm
Okay,
saying.
all
Yeah.
right.
Right.
Second
Okay.
that.
Motion
Okay.
second. All right, all in favor of this motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right, 5.6, local current expense budget. Move.
There was still stuff.
Number two, Stan.
Oh, I'm sorry,
I
I'm moving right along here, so I'm sorry, Stan.
I had just a brief update.
No, that's it, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'll put it in the wrong place.
I jumped the number.
There we go. Just to give y'all an update on the current projects that we have rolling in the 17, 18 year that have been completed in the since the last meeting. Eastern Elementary, Curtis Roofman has completed the recoating of pods 7, 8, and 9. They did a very good job, clean and neat and out, and no disruption. They actually did the last week and a half of school, work on the roof, and everything went well.
Got water in a few of the classrooms.
Ma'am?
They did get some water in.
No, ma'am, it was not. It was our air conditioning drain that stopped up.
That's what got the
Yes,
water.
ma'am.
But water came into the classroom,
Right.
I heard that.
Yes, in the hallway in one of the classrooms.
Yeah.
But it's got us a seal.
So it wasn't disruption for the roof, but the teachers had a little disruption.
Yes, but we had it cleaned up before they got kids in school down there.
Yeah, they said you got it.
Yeah, we didn't miss any classrooms. Bath Elementary, Curtis and Curtis of Kinston completed that roof. We replaced, everything's great with it, and Curtis also completed Building 4 testing roof last week. That was completed, so that finishes out these last two that you just approved that finish out our 17, 18.
And just for the
Less
TV
asphalts.
Just for the TV audience, Curtis Roofing and Curtis and Curtis, I can't even say it, Roofing are two different groups.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
And we've got outstanding asphalt projects, the
We're waiting on
RFPs
those
are.
RFPs to come back,
And
that'll finish up.
I wanted you all to know that Stan has already worked on the documentation to send out for the upcoming year capital projects. We're jumping on them early, so that won't be something that comes in at the last minute.
I hope I can have a lot of those done this summer. We're going to go and get them out and stuff. And I submitted the custodial RFP to Ms. Kim today for her to look over, so we'll have that out hopefully in the next week.
Okay. Everybody all right with that? All right, stay right there. We're gonna move to 5.5, 2018-2019 capital budget approval.
Yes, this is the budget that was presented to you last meeting, and we asked Mr. Dunn to clean it up when we made the changes in the, we cut the money back to meet what our budget is. We deleted the items that were actually had to delete it and added the north side chiller coil replacement. And for you are presenting our capital budget.
So what I'm looking at is the $1,115,000, which is what the appropriations from the county were, and the projects that you have listed, we cut it back to match that up.
Correct, that's what,
And so
squeeze them together, and
I got
make
you.
it work within the
Yeah, 'cause
budget.
we've already talked this. So that's what you're asking us to approve?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then, can I jump ahead? I know we'll get to it but I need to ask you right now. So on the item that's getting ready to come up in a minute, the budget resolution, it shows for 18-19, and I know there's a good reason, so just tell me what it is. Fund 4 capital outlay, it says $1,115,695. Fund balance appropriated $200,177 for a total of $1,315. Why is it different on the regular budget resolution than what Stan's asking us to do?
Where's it different?
You're talking about on the large budget resolution?
Yeah, right,
This
yeah,
one.
yeah, right here. That's right. I mean, we can get to it there if, I just want to make sure before we approve this, that that's what's being matched up over there.
When you go to the actual budget page that he's showing you, the second page of this sheet.
Okay, hold on. I'm with you. The first, yeah, because the first half is expenditures. Is that what you're saying?
The second page it will show a fund balance appropriation. Y'all didn't get the second page. Okay, that's the problem.
Okay.
Basically, the projects that are currently not finished, like when we drafted this, the testing roof and the Bath Elementary roof were not completed. So that's why those projects that were still in the fiscal year 17-18 had balances in them.
Of $200,000.
Being it wasn't spent, it would be fund balance that we would spend to complete those projects. So basically, it comes down to $187,990.07 to complete those rest of those projects that are left over from 17-18.
And we had already appropriated that money
Yes.
from not going forward, but this past year.
That's right.
Are you saying the second page to Stan's?
There was, yes, I didn't give Lisa the little section that talks about what we are currently working on 17-18, the two roof projects that Stan just approved and the potential asphalt.
Because you know which one.
That $200,000.
Because you know which one I'm talking about, the second page.
Yes.
Because when you said second page, this is a second page.
Right.
But on here it was $200,177. That's all
Right.
I was looking for. I was just trying to figure
On
out.
the second page that was submitted to you all, it listed the 18 projects, had the testing center roof at
Okay.
$43.75 and the Bath Elementary at $78,1250. But it left on there the Chocowinity Primary replacement library roof at $93,600, the Washington High School band boosters at $9,000, central office parking lot at $3,500, Northeast Elementary.
Yeah, you don't have to go through it. So basically, the $200,000 is really just carryover from this year.
That's right, to finish up the projects. And we'll tweak both the resolution to reflect the changes that he gave tonight.
Good.
Okay. Everybody okay?
Yeah.
All right.
So,
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
I apologize.
No.
Because I'm kind of in the dark. What did the cooler price after we decided to go with replacement parts on the one school versus replacing both? What did that come in at, Sam?
$53,000.
Okay, very good.
That's a north side chiller, replacement coils in the tanks.
Right. All right. Very good.
Okay. Any more questions? Seeing none? Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second. All right, a motion and a second. All in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay. All right. Now we'll get to 5.6 and current local expense budget. Mr. Dunn.
Yes, sir. So as you open this up, before you grab your heart and fall out on the floor, let me just put two numbers that you've got to consider. For the fiscal year 17-18, the budget that was proposed, the board allocated $350,000 of fund balance to make sure that all local current expenses were taken care of. Of that $350,000, as of this afternoon, we have used $172. So we were able not to use the entire appropriation for 17-18. That leaves us with approximately a fund balance of around $1.5 million going into next year. So that's, and again, that's as of right now. Federal and state, all that information's been totaled, and the finance department's done a tremendous job getting that all together. They're finishing up local as we speak, but we believe those are our solid numbers. So when the audit comes in, I think it will reflect very close to that. So having said that, what is probably the biggest issue that we've faced the last 2 years is that three things that are out of our control are the increases in hospitalization, the increases in retirement, and the increases in salaries. Not that we want anybody to not get raises, but we don't control that. And the county appropriations have been very static in the sense that they have not increased to account for those. And so that's really what is putting us in a deeper financial hole, because even if we keep everything level in terms of staffing, those are expenses that we cannot control. And so what we've been doing is appropriating fund balance to essentially take care of those added mandates that, again, we can't control. So what you have here is our fiscal 19 local current expense appropriation from the county is $14,392,000. You see the school resource officer's appropriation of an additional $765,000. Total appropriation $15,157,502. Five and forfeitures estimated $300,000 for a total local county dollars of $15,457,502. Our expenditures, if you're using 17-18 as a base, were $15,084,609. That includes the extra $172,000 of fund balance that you allocated. The school resource officer contract, when you combine the state money we get for school resource officers and the county money, is $570,497. Our cuts, we had previously talked of cutting the testing technician position, local teaching positions for cuts totaling $394,500. Program enhancement, we talked about, we have to maintain the technology level. Capital had $350 for technology. This will be $100,000 to maintain where Mr. Malick in the technology department is now. We talked about virtual academy, raising the pay that we pay our own teachers to be part of the virtual academy. The additional positions, I do have some good news. The instructional technology facilitator, the price tag is still $65,000, but working with Greg, we found some federal money to offset that, which is why it only says 27 here. The certified teacher, that there is no money to offset that. That's for the additional K-5 classroom at the Ed Tech. The mental health professional district-wide is still at 65, but we found some federal money to offset that, so it only costs the board 31. In addition, Greg has been able to squeeze out $25,000 in money for P.S. Jones. It's not enough money for a position, but it would allow her to do some, it'd be essentially using it like Title I funds for tutoring, after-school programs, whatever she wanted to use the 25 for, but it wouldn't be enough to fill a full position. And I removed that from the last time, if you remember, that was on there. Then you see at the bottom again, fixed costs, based on our current information, these may come a little under, but we believe we're pretty accurate on fixed costs at $472,000. So if you take our current local budget, you subtract the amount of money the county's given us, that leaves us a hole of $508,479 to pay for, which would be appropriated from fund balance, which would take your fund balance from 1.5 to a little less than $1 million.
Okay. Can we attack this a line at a time?
Go right ahead.
No, I mean not attack. Just want to ask you a question. Well, back to the instruction, and I'm not going after any particular thing. I'm just making a point. Instructional technology facilitator, 27,000, even though Greg found some money. Is Greg gonna find that money every year? Because once you hire this person, I'm pretty sure we gotta pay them next year too.
I mean, they're, in theory, as long as our federal dollars don't change, we're good, but that could change absolutely next
They
year.
change every year.
Yes, sir, they do.
But what I'm saying is that's not a one-time fixed
No,
cost. That's a
no, it is not.
recurring cost every year in your budget.
No, it is
So if
not.
you've got that big hole this year, you're gonna more than likely have that big hole next year.
That is correct. I mean, so in theory, that's 65,000. We may find another use for the federal to take possibly off the total that we're from fund balance. That's certainly an option.
I see the fixed costs on retirement and hospitalization. I realize that's stuff that we have no control over, right, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'm not really sure what we do have control over, but one thing sticks in my mind, and tell me what's different, Dr. Phillips. Not last month, but 2 weeks ago when I got this sheet, and it said $302,000 fund balance appropriated. I understand the difference between that and this time though. I'm pretty sure, I believe your comment was, be very careful, there's no way we can continue at $300,000 a year. So if $302,000 was bad, why is it $508 terrible?
Well, and given the fund balance we have, you only have 3 years to do that, and then you're down to zero.
I don't know what to do here, but my first thought is there's no way you can appropriate $508,000 out of fund balance. There's no way you can do this.
Let me ask about the increase in technology. Is that above and beyond the 300,000? Explain that to me real quick.
Okay, the capital budget gives Mark $350,000 for
Right.
technology, for hardware projects. The $100,000 is for licenses, software, and other non-capital, jump right in, maintenance, kind of maintaining what we have. So Mark in the past has generally had about $450,000, and I wish he had not left, but according to Mark, each year to maintain what we have based on the age of our equipment and what we're doing in the classrooms, he needs $450,000 in combined capital and local funds to keep it running. And would certainly request more if you could give it to him, but he says, according to Mark, that's the bottom line, that he can maintain what we have and keep us moving.
I believe we had bought much of our equipment with some E-rate funding in the past, and we've got some major replacements coming in technology and equipment.
Well,
I mean, the testing computers alone, I don't think they can be upgraded to meet the new standard, if I recall correctly.
And I can certainly go back and look at trying to cut more positions or look at other things to serve up.
Cutting enough.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that, but let me ask, I'm trying to put in my mind, do the two go together? And I don't mean to take up our force. Anybody wants to jump in, jump in. I printed, this is a document we're going to get to somewhere on here, right? Budget resolution? Okay. And when I look at it, it's got local current expense fund. Well, go back up here top. You've got, not to the very top, but you've got FY18, $15,084,609. I'll leave the little dollars off. But that number is made up of all these different lines that come from the local expense budget. Am I not correct on that? I mean, you got one figure here, but that one figure represents a whole lot of different things.
Sure.
On here.
Yes, sir.
So rather than just looking at this one-page summary you have here that says, well, let's cut 100,000 out of technology, we can cut 100,000 out of virtual, 20. I'm just saying, here's where we need to look at.
Sure.
You got an item on here, I mean, I'm just picking out a couple. Board of Education, $250,000.
Right.
At this point right now, before I would appropriate, and the only reason I picked that one, Mr. Chairman, was Mr. Willie Mack could tell you that I'd actually asked him earlier this week about that, and he sent me a breakdown of that line. So in other words, you got a $15 million line here that's broken down by many lines here, and each one of these lines can be broken down into more lines, correct?
Yes.
So that's where you got to start looking at to cut your budget. Go through this entire sheet here, because you've got items in here, and I'm not going to pick on either one of them, but you've got $350,000, $825,000, $570, but you know, that's a SRS, that's probably protected. But I don't know if this is you, Stan, but I'm not trying to beat up on plant operations, $4,575,000. If there's anywhere in any one of these lines here, if you can just take $25,000 here, $25,000 there, before you know it, you can make up a lot of this money. But like on the one I will pick on, because I'm involved, Board of Education, when you gave me that, Willie Mack, it included a lot of things for travel and whatever. I would just throw it out on the floor that until we can come up with some money here, we just ban all of our travel as a Board of Education. Let's just do the virtual meetings that we have here. We come to the meetings, we'll do the virtual meetings, but other than that, we just quit traveling anywhere and take that money and put toward that $508,000.
And if we want to go to somewhere, then we pay for it ourselves.
Or figure it out. But we can't just keep, and that's just one item, and I'm only saying that one because I'm on the Board of Education. So I'm cutting into something that I would actually go do. But you see what I'm saying? We just got to figure out this way. We don't need to cut more positions. You need to look at these lines here and figure out what can be cut from them.
Well, Board of Education, 250 sounds like a lot of money to.
Well, just for the camera, since I said
there's a
that, I
lot
better
more
explain
into that
it.
line
Your
item
Board of
than just-
Education.
That's not really us.
No, that's why.
I know there's a lot
I know
more to it.
exactly that.
What you're saying is we need breakdowns to look at some of these things.
You got to go, you can't just look at this and say, well, we're going to do this and cut a few positions. That $15 million there involves everything from a PRC beginning at 001 to up to 965.
But you need to
there's different places in there to cut.
You need to realize that that is based on this year's operations, plus the federal and the state money.
Okay.
And I've tried to utilize your local dollars as best I can with the state dollars. We had some savings and some state expenditures that I was able to shift local expenditures up to maximize those dollars. Based on what the new money that comes in their allotments for the F18-19 year, depending on the allotments that we get from the state, even though we are budgeting them right now based on current operations, they may shift based on the lack or the surplus of monies that we receive. They're not written in stone. But as we were looking at the current budget, if everything else stayed constant, and these, were the items that we were looking at adding, this is what it would take. But then again, I can't guarantee you what your state and federal money will be. It's a constant moving target. You may have a lot of money paid for in teachers one year, but based on funding and technology, I may shift them around because I can use some state money for technologies or teachers, and it would lessen those departments in your local budget.
Yeah, I get it. All I'm saying is, and I don't know that, I'm just saying, when I look on here, it says operation, well, let's don't do that. Let's look, general operations, $475,000. Well, that may be nothing because I don't even know what general operations means, Mr. Chairman. But not knowing, I could easily say, well, make general operations $450,000. And there's $25,000. Yeah. That might be completely crazy because I just said, I don't even know what that line means. But until I know what that line means, there is no way I can vote to approve taking $508,000 out of the fund balance. But that's just me.
I think
you need to really put some thought into that.
I think what you're saying is, as tight as we are, we got to get the magnifying glass out.
Absolutely. Yeah, look at each one of these and see. I'm seriously saying, all you got to do is get $25,000 here, $25,000 there, and for long, you'll have that money, or a big hunk of it. Just saying, folks.
What dollar figure do you feel like fund balance allocation, do you think we need to be down
I wasn't
to?
comfortable with the $302,000 because I believe you said you weren't comfortable with the $302,000.
So what should the target be?
I would say 200 was my thought.
Yeah, a couple $100,000 I could live with. So you're looking at.
Get it down 300,000, is that?
Yeah.
I think our issues are not with these.
It's not an issue with anything, it's just money's the issue.
Right, but with the mental health piece, the technology facilitators, where we're having help on both of those. I'm not interested in eliminating either one of those. I'm more in line with Terry, and let's look at our
Look at these.
big ticket, 15 million, and to be sure, there's some places here and there, without making any one department take a hit that would make them suffer. I'm like you, Terry, I can't imagine if you're getting $475,000, is $450,000 gonna put you in dire straits? It might. I don't know, and the reason I don't know is I don't know what all falls underneath there.
But I think we need
And
to look.
I know that you do, and I know that it's probably a tremendous amount that we're asking you to come up with, but,
Well, 3 years down the road, it's going to be a lot harder job than what we're asking for now.
Well, if we have to take $500,000 next year, we only have 2 years left.
We ain't gonna have.
You're not gonna have 3.
Well, and it'll be more than 500,000 because your fixed costs are going to continue to go up.
That's
So
what I just said.
That's where you're going to get
Just because he
behind.
found money this year, if he doesn't find it, your fixed cost, once you hire people, you have to continue to pay them.
What exactly falls under operation of plant, PRC 802?
Yeah.
Because that's,
It's operations of the schools, electric bills, utilities, WAN lines. It's whatever it takes to keep the school operational.
okay, because that's the biggest line item on the.
I mean, this may be something that we need a separate meeting for unless we
Yeah,
have to
I think-
approve this
I don't think we can do it
tonight.
tonight.
I
But
mean,
if we're gonna do that, within 5.7, the next item needs to be.
We have to have a
I think
budget
you're right.
adopted
I don't think we can
by
go through this
midnight
tonight.
on the
Mark, can I just
My
ask?
midnight win?
on the 30th.
Can we get a breakout of those figures
Well,
by
and,
next meeting?
well, there's,
don't have one scheduled.
there's line items, Terry, where all those figures are there, but it's like Terry Williams said, within every heading, there are subheadings.
Right.
And there's so many of them.
We need a breakout of those subheadings then,
Right, well, there's a lot of headings, so we might need to help Willie Mack be a little more specific in which, the big ones that are,
He may have just answered our question. If midnight on the 30th is when it's
We're done.
punched, then that's 2 days.
Yeah.
2 days and
We're done.
5.5 hours and 3 minutes.
I mean, there's nothing that says we can't change it after. I mean, it's not set in stone. It's just we've got to get a budget resolution going into the next fiscal year. That doesn't mean we couldn't come back and amend it at a later date and find $300,000 in savings.
because we're not gonna take the 500,000 away from the fund balance on July 1st.
Correct.
That's correct.
So we can find other ways to back some of those other figures up and lessen that appropriation.
That's correct.
Am I right?
I say that we,
On those grounds, I'm willing to let you meet the deadline as long as we have the ability to change.
I just think we need to take July after the 4th and come in here and have a session to really go at it.
Is everybody finished?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Yes.
Mark,
Yes, ma'am.
on the mental health professional district-wide, is that saying that one person will take care of the entire district?
No.
Is that what that is?
No, ma'am.
Okay, can you tell me what
Sure.
that is?
The goal would be, what we hope to create, we are going to add an elementary class at Ed Tech that's for K-5 students. And we also hope to create a person who would, someone that, I mean, in a perfect world, we find someone who has both the counseling background and the social work background. That person would be on call for our schools to assist, to do professional development, working with students with mental health issues. That person would be part of the EC department in the sense that they might be involved in meetings with students where there's not necessarily an intellectual disability, but there's a mental health issue. That person will be reaching out to families, kind of coordinating with different agencies in the community and statewide. So, I mean, that, their role would be kind of big picture role as well as hands-on role and kind of work in conjunction with the Student Support Services Department.
Okay, well, where would that person be stationed?
I mean, I don't know that we've found an office for them, because my thought would be they would be out in the schools when they weren't meeting with local agencies, or they weren't meeting at schools in general. So I mean, I think they would kind of be all over the place.
I think based off of what you just said, in my mind, that's about 5 positions.
Yes, it is.
I was just
We've
gonna
got to
say,
start
perfect.
somewhere.
I know you do, but I'm just,
In a less
that
than
we're not
perfect
getting
world.
all of that out by a 40-hour-a-week job. I'm gonna tell you that right now. It's not gonna happen.
And I wanna
So we
make a
just spinning
statement
our
about that.
wheels?
I have been,
I need to
as
look
have
at
most
it
of the
more.
school
You got one
board,
person still
from
can't
the
do the
south
job.
side river to the north side river and all the
We
tributaries
do
in
the harder
between.
cases, I
And you
would
can
say.
ask most any classroom teacher what their
And then-
biggest issue is,
Teacher
what they
educating-
have the most
educating the
problem
teachers, getting rid of the
with.
kids
And they're
in the
gonna
office.
tell you the children that have emotional and mental health needs that are just not being met. Not because we don't wanna meet them, we don't have the manpower to meet them. But from the high school level to pre-K, that's what they preach, am I right?
Yes, right.
They've got children with issues. This one teacher at Northeast says, I have children with issues you can't begin to understand. And it broke my heart for her, because she's working every day, probably 60 hours a week, because she's working at night trying to help these kids. And we've got to give them some help somewhere. And I'm like you, Mike, I don't know how one person will do
Well,
it, but got to start.
If we're successful with the K-5 program at Ed Tech, the idea there is that through some community partners, we have some counselors and social workers that will be coming in We'll also have our own folks in there, some of our behavior support folks, some of our own behavior specialists, our own teachers. So I mean, hopefully at the elementary level, we'll have a little more hands-on approach, because the idea there is not you're there forever and ever. The idea is there, hopefully we assist you, you get the treatment that you need in some form or fashion. Your family's also brought in as part of it, and we find the tools to get you back in a regular classroom. But certainly, I mean, in a perfect world, I'd like to have a person like this in every building.
Well, I mean, you look at the schools, just in the city of Washington, you've got 2 elementary schools that have over 600 kids in them.
Sure.
And so you don't need an on-call person, you need a person right there at that school every day, and they would be lined up out the door.
That was my question. That's what I was reaching for.
Yeah.
I was trying to find out if we're talking about one person, or are we talking about a group of people?
Well, right now, we're talking about
All right, that's meeting number 2 that we need to schedule. I mean, really, your budget's a huge issue. This is a mental health issue. I've been in the game for 15 years. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of manpower.
Yes.
And not only that, but educating our teachers, because if you're not involved with it, it's tough to deal with on a daily basis.
We've got to start somewhere. So can we pass this tonight with an agreement that we meet no later than the end of July to target our appropriation of fund balance to $200,000?
I'll make that motion.
Is that for both 5, 6, and 7?
No, it's for local. I mean, the local appropriation was 508.
But we're looking at the...
Oh, I haven't even got to the next one yet,
Okay.
but I'm sure they're okay. I
Okay.
mean, I think they are. It's just this one.
Any more
Did
discussion?
that make sense, though?
Yes.
That's fine.
Did you make that motion, sir?
Yes, I made that motion.
I
Okay.
second it.
Okay, we've
And
got a
I'll go
motion and a
along with
second.
for that.
Any further discussion? Yes, sir.
What are we passing here?
To adopt the budget resolution, but come back in the month of June to determine how to cut, in July, to cut back that fund balance allocation to around 200,000.
All right, now with that, have we determined, so do we have 1 or 2 for mental health, one or 2 for the IT, and what is the deal with the money that was that was set aside by the commissioners for the resource officers?
Well,
Have we finalized that?
one technology facilitator, one mental health person, and we are not final yet on the SRO contract. Well, that'll be something we discuss in July.
All right.
Don can't wait for Friday to get here.
Friday, lunchtime
That's
Friday.
included in this approval, right?
It is.
Okay. All right, got a motion, got a second. Any more discussion? No. Seeing none, all in favor of this motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Move down to 5.7, approval of budget resolution, 2018, 2019. Mr. Whittemore.
Fund 1 is just projections on the allotments. There again, I won't know until we get a letter from Raleigh or allotment report that tells me what it is. I did have a planning allotment for Fund 3. Those were the allotments that were I was given to plan for. There again, the revenues and expenditures are a wash. Child nutrition is based on their current operations. I will tell you that it does look like that they're being free and reduced or free lunches across the board has generated considerable revenue within that department. So it's not, I don't think we're not exceeding the expenditures that are budgeted, but the revenues are exceeding the expenditures. And Fund 4, or you all have already agreed upon, Fund 6, 7, and 8 have carryover. Last year I didn't budget or include Fund 8 in it. I would rather not include 6, 7 as well, as we have had invoices trickle in and we've had to modify and move monies at the end of the year and the beginning of the next year. So those, once we have a comfortable fund balance appropriation, I'll bring that to you in a budget amendment.
The leftover money from child nutrition, what happens with that?
It stays in their fund for their use.
But we have been charging a little bit of indirect cost for the use of facilities, so we want to try to use some of those funds when we can do that.
They end up using it to buy freezers
Yeah,
and
they have more
everything.
equipment and things.
That's what she's hoping to do with the excess revenues that she received this year, was making some improvements.
I mean, I think this is going to blend into what we're going to discuss at another time. I mean, I'm assuming that we're,
I would have to.
this is the bigger picture of what we just looked at.
Because on page 3, it shows local expense fund 2508.
Yeah.
But we can approve this subject to the change on that one line. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. All right, do I have a motion to accept the resolution?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Okay, 5.8, grant budgetary authority. Mr. Willie Mack.
Last year, the board granted Dr. Phipps and myself the authority to make the necessary moves to utilize state and federal funds to close the fiscal year. I'm asking for the same resolution and authority for Mr. Doan and myself.
So moved.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, sir. Motion passes. All
We're
right.
not picking on you, Willie.
No, thanks for the work you're doing. But that's,
I'm worried that if we make that local so tight, which granted we'll be putting some money in the fund balance, if the state allotments don't come in, we are going to have to go there. So I understand the need to protect the fund balance, but I don't think I'm going to be able to give you a solid answer that will not change.
But, I mean, I understand that, but we're going to have to
try.
We're going to have to try because we can't spend $508,000.
Yeah.
No. All right, moving down, the next item, item 6 is a closed session. Ms. Booth.
I move that we go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A. 1, to prevent disclosure of confidential personnel files under General Statute 115C-321, and to consult with our attorney to consider and give instructions concerning a potential or an actual claim, administrative procedure, or judicial action. The title of the action is 18 CVS 157 Nourishment versus Beaufort County Schools.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor of this motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed? We will be going into closed session momentarily. Okay, we're back in open session. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept the personnel agenda that was presented.
Second.
All right, we got
And,
a,
Mr. Chairman, I would recuse myself from the one item.
okay. All right, got a motion and a second, and you heard Ms. Walker? Okay. All right. All in favor of this motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, let's move down to the calendar.
I lost connection for some reason.
Yeah.
I'm off of it.
Well, I think I am too. It's not-
We have a monthly board meeting scheduled the 25th of July, 5:30.
Okay.
And I think you'll probably want to try to squeeze something in prior to that to talk about the budget.
Okay. All right. What, look at July, the week of July 9th. I'm just trying to look at 2 weeks in between. What night looks good for everybody
Well, on the 9th,
on the 9th?
we have somewhere we can be, right?
Yeah, I'll be gone that whole week, but y'all can do it
Okay.
without me.
Well,
Oh, yeah,
Oh, that's right. We be
without you.
downtown.
okay.
Downtown today.
Terry, you know you want to be
Yeah, the
Well,
week
but
of
I'm
the,
not going to stop, I'm not going to stop you
the
from
week of the
doing your work.
16th. How about the week of the, when is our next meeting?
The
I'm sorry.
25th
Not
would
till the
be,
25th.
that'd be 2 weeks back to back.
Well, if we
So
met
we start meeting
the
on
week
Wednesdays.
of the 16th, then
We meet on Tuesdays.
we could do whatever adjustments we might be able to
Is
do,
that too
and
late?
then he have them ready for us the following week.
On the 25th, right.
Okay,
What do you
Okay.
think about that?
say that again.
What-
The week of the 16th. I know that's the week before
Sure.
a regular meeting. but
Right.
Can we do it Monday, the 16th?
Yes. I
Let's shoot
can.
for it. If
Okay.
everybody's okay.
And that's budget meeting?
Butch, you all right?
Yeah.
Is that budget?
Terry and I will have a meeting at 7:30, but we can,
Well, you want to meet a little bit early, like 5?
Five? Meet at 5?
that's fine.
All right, let's try to do that.
That okay, Mr.
And I would-
16th.
I would, perhaps Willie Mack and I can bring some different versions of some things to look at.
Whatever, Mr. Superintendent.
That'll be fine.
And
All right.
I'm gonna look at what we have, and that way, maybe before then submit, email you some things. that you
We
can
don't have a meeting in July, so let's change it to 5, let's do 5:30.
We do have
We
a meeting in
won't have a
July.
meeting in July, so it won't affect us.
Oh, you don't, okay,
No.
so, okay, you're talking about your other meeting, okay.
Yes, the 16th.
5:30,
Yeah,
okay,
I like 5:30.
okay, 5:30,
16th at 5:30.
okay, and then we'll meet on the 25th,
Okay.
as stated, okay? Is everybody straight on that?
Well, did Michael?
Just make
said-
sure, Lisa, if you don't mind, you send it out so Michael will get it.
Well, did Michael say something about meeting also, in a separate meeting for the mental health?
He said that, but we could talk to him at the meeting about that.
I think we can do that another time.
Right, I think that we're pursuing some grant opportunities, and I think that's probably what he's referencing. If we're able to get those, we might increase our numbers of mental health assistants, but at this point, it's all right on the ground.
Right.
So we don't need one?
Well, I don't know what else, I'm assuming he wants to talk about that, I don't know
Yeah,
what
he
else
said mental health.
besides that, there may be other things.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything before we move from calendar? Okay. Board member updates? Anybody got anything? Well, I've got one thing, but I don't want to talk about it. But we're going to have to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. As everybody knows, this is Dr. Phipps's last official meeting, and it's probably one of his longer meetings. He's going out with a blast. We are definitely going to miss you, sir. You've come a long way with us. You've been very patient with us. We appreciate all the time that we've had to work together. And as I said before, Caldwell County's getting a good man.
Thank you.
And with the help of Miss Lisa here, the board has got a little token they want to give you at this time. Okay. If you will, just stand up just a second. On behalf of the Board of Education, we want to do something besides a plaque, and Lisa came up with this idea. And I would like to have, after the meeting, have the board members that's present to have a picture also. I think the newspaper man's here too, so, okay.
Around.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You want to read what it says?
Yeah, read on the back. Made in Japan.
It says, thank you for your commitment to the students and community of Beaufort County, January 2010 to June 2018. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Joshua 1:9. Thank you.
That's great. And when I visit you in your office, I want to make sure that picture's hanging in there.
I'll make sure.
I was going to tell them the same thing. Okay, I bet you're going to do it. Okay. All right. Moving down to 8.3 for the last and final time, Dr. Phipps, a superintendent update.
Just simply thank you. Thank you to the board, thank you to the community, thank you to the employees that we've got in our school system for allowing me to serve with you and for you, and I just appreciate having been a part of this community, a part of this system, and look forward to great things for you all moving forward.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I think we need to give them a hand. Okay, Ms. Pete, I need your
I'll
help.
make a motion, we adjourn.
And I'm second.
All right, got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.